Hey designer, Alex here, welcome to the channel, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to create this nice looking hover effect. So we have these coffee bags, and when I hover you can see all of this additional information popping up, and you can still click on this button if you want to, and same for this one. As you can see, there are different colors, there are different custom badges, and of course there is a different text for each of them, which is changing on hover. So let's get started. Alright, let's get started with the wireframe, and as always I just have a piece of paper and I have a pen. So if I switch to this camera, just so that you guys can see what I'm doing, it's really quite easy to create these, and as I keep mentioning in my videos, I really enjoy paper wireframes because they are super simple to create, they are super simple to change, because nothing can really beat the speed that you have with your hand, with your pen and paper, rather than simply putting on the software like Adobe Xd, Figma, Sketch, whatever, and then creating your wireframe there. I always recommend that you do that afterwards, but for the start I always truly recommend paper wireframes. So to get started, what I'm going to do is right here, what I have is just a plain piece of paper. You can use whatever you want, you can use whatever kind of pen you want, and I'm going to do something really simple because once again design is already created, so nothing really too fancy to change right here. So what I'm going to do is actually put a logo right here in the center. I will have some menu items right here below, and this section below that I'm going to change into two parts. I'm going to split it down in the center like this. So if the line is not visible in the design, what I'm doing is putting this line. So basically this is going to be in the center right here, and this part is going to be one product, this part is going to be another product. What I also like to do, and you perhaps see this in my previous videos about wireframes, is I always like to put something like edge right here, just so that I can have this space right here for some additional notes. So for example, right here I'm going to put blur BG for blur background, and I hope you can see that well. So for example, something like this. So blur background, because I want to put this image in the background, I want to put the blur on top of it, and I just want to make sure that the whole website really stands out to the viewer. Next, what I'm going to do is put those two products right here. So I'm just going to put a rectangle here, and I'm going to put coffee, and I'm going to put a button here, BTN. I'm going to put a button here, BTN. I'm going to put, I think it was Arabica right here, and I'm going to actually close these two. Then I'm going to call this Colombia, and I'm going to put two lines of text, because this is going to indicate the hover state itself, this is going to indicate our starter state. So that's why we're just seeing the name of the coffee, and I can put this here, so coffee name like this, and this is going to be hover state like that. So it doesn't really matter. I just want to give my designer colleagues, for example my clients, my developers, a way for them to understand what I'm thinking. So this is coffee as well. This is going to be the badge, so 100% organic, for example, and I might include something like this for the badge. And because this is Colombia, we can say something like Colombia, for example, in the background. Now this is going to be the color, so let's round these up, because this portion at the top is going to be our navigation, which is going to be outside of our hover state, and this below is going to actually be the content area. So inside of this content area we're going to have background color, so BG color like this, and you can see straight away why I have this empty space on the right and on the left, because it gives me plenty of space to write some additional notes for myself in the future and for other designers on the team or my clients, developers, and so on. And basically that's it. That's how easy this is to create. When you're thinking through a process like this, what I will recommend you to do is always start with an idea, then quickly switch to paper wireframe, draft it out like this, because if you think that this doesn't really work, you can always change it, you can throw it away. You can, for example, use I don't know, marker, and then you can come right here with your marker and then simply lay down some color just to see how it looks like. Perhaps you can keep all of this space empty and then play around with some wireframes, because once again, this process is much simpler and much faster than doing this all in Adobe Xd, Figma, Sketch, whatever software you are using. All right, now so that we have this, I'm going to scan it with my scanner. If you don't have a scanner, you can simply use your phone like this, snap a picture and then upload it to your computer, just so that you can have it by your side, and later when you share it with your clients, developers and teammates, they can still have the access to it right inside Adobe Xd. Because I have a scanner, I'm going to quickly scan this and I'll see you in a bit in Adobe Xd. Now that I scanned that paper, let's jump inside Adobe Xd, and here is the project file, and you can get this project file if you join my membership. Link is going to be down in the description below. Membership contains all of the courses, digital design products and these practice files, so that you can follow along these YouTube videos and every other YouTube video in the past and in the future. So this is how the project file looks like. You can see all of these colors right here, character styles. We have the components for this particular project because I used few mockups from Envato Elements. I'm going to leave the links down in the description below if you want to check them out. If not, you can always use your own resources. So now before we move on, I just want to quickly drag and drop that paper wireframe that we created before. Here it is, and as I said, not to repeat myself anymore, I'm just using it as a reference to other designers on the team, with my clients and with developers, so everybody involved can be on the same page. Now, before we get started, I just want to show you this is 1920 by 1080. I'm using this grid layout, 12 columns with, let me hide myself, with 60 for the gutter width and 82 for the column width, and with 138 margins linked left and right. So now, before I move on further, I just want to actually hide this, not to be too distracting. I have this background right here, and if I open it up and show you, I have it in a folder called BG, and it contains background layer and a blur layer. Now this blur layer is just this nice image, and with the background, what I have right here is just some sort of white fill color, as you can see right here. Because it's locked, let me unlock it like so. So as I said, what I have is a white fill color. Opacity, I have a blend mode of normal, but I have a background blur, and background blur amount is 30, brightness 15, opacity 27, and of course, depending of the image you are using, if you're using this file, you can use the same settings, but if you're using different image, then your settings are going to vary. So now let's get started with our design. As I said, we have multiple ones of these colors, character styles and components, and to get us started, what I want to do is drag and drop a nice logo here in the center. What I want to do is actually to move it, let's see, for example 40, but I want to use a logo which I colored previously, which is this one, and let me position it in the place. I'm going to remove this one, and I'm going to use this one. So now what I'm going to do is simply remove this logo, because I already applied some of these colors to my design. So hit Ctrl K to put it right here in my components. As I said, you're going to get this practice file anyways, so you're going to notice this logo right here. So what I'm going to do is actually position it, for example 30, maybe not 40. Make sure it's in the center, and now let's focus on the text itself. I'm going to press T and use something smaller like this 24, for example, and let's see, I'm going to type in where it is. So let's get rid of it, press T like so, and type in blends for the blends of coffee. And let me convert it to 24, for example. Just let me check. Yep. And let me now put this in a group. So let's use Ctrl G like so. And I'm going to call this nav, for example. And I'm going to put a stack and duplicate this. Make sure my stack is 60 like this. So I have a 60 gutter, if you remember, and now I have 60 spacing right here. So for this second one, let me see, I'm going to type in custom flavor like so. I'm going to duplicate this one, it's going to be called chocolate. This next one is going to be cookies. I'm simply using Control D, by the way, to duplicate them. And this is going to be contact us, like so. And then make sure to position them in the center. And let's see, for them, I want to make sure they are 20, for example, from this logo down, like so. And once again, just quickly make sure for the end that they are all in the same place. Position this right here, and let me see, I can call these two navigation, like that. And now let's quickly focus on our workspace right here. So what I'm going to do is actually divide these two. So let me quickly see, for example, let's see, if this is 1920, I'm going to pull this up just to show you how I'm doing this usually. So the width is 1920. I'm going to divide it by 2. It's 960. It's always useful to have some kind of a calculator on your hand, because sometimes when you're measuring these distances and stuff like that, it's actually quite simple to get it wrong. So always have a calculator by your side, either like this in your computer or in your phone. Is going to make your life much more easier. So if I go back to here, width is 960. So let's go ahead and create a rectangle like this. So it's going to be called, for example, Arabica color, because you know we have this Arabica right here. So let's call it Arabica color. Width is going to be 960, like so. And let's see, for the height, maybe I can give it a height of 888, for example, just to see how that works. And let's see, when I snap it here, remove the border, what we are left with is 30, which is great, because now we have 30 here, we have 30 here. Of course, you can always play around with these distances and dimensions and change them however you want, but I want to put it like this, because this is Arabica color. I already have it here, it's Arabica blue, and I'm going to simply duplicate it and snap it to this side, and I'm going to give it this Columbia pink, and I'm going to rename this to Columbia color, and I'm going to place it right here. Now that we have our two colors and our two workspaces, what I'm going to do is come right here, and let's see where I have my coffee. Arabica is here and Columbia is here, but I don't want to drag the entire component because those were the components I actually created. So let me get rid of them and show you how to do them later. I actually want to drag these mockups like so. And once again, I found these mockups on Envato Elements, and I'm going to leave the links in the description below if you want to check out Elements, because they have literally everything you could possibly need. And I have these badges, but we're going to come to them in a second. What I'm going to do right here is simply create the entire design and then work my way backwards, what I need to hide for the first original state, and then what I need to show in the second state. So if we jump back to here, what I need to do first of all is to create that font. So I'm going to use this Playfair display, which I already have right here. So let me start there. I'm going to type in Arabica. I'm going to make sure it's left aligned, and I'm going to use this 36 text like that. And I'm going to duplicate it, and I'm going to call this one Columbia. Like that. And let's see, I can, for example, put it, I don't know, maybe 100 from this edge, 108. Let's see, 90, 100. So it can be somewhere around there. And let's see, from here to here, perhaps I can put it a bit more, 83. Let's see, right. And I'm holding Alt key, by the way, just so I can see these distances. And what I'm going to do is duplicate this one, position it right here, make sure I'm using this Open Sans, position it right here. And let's see, for the distance between these two, I can use 30, for example, and I can position it 40 down. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And let me actually go ahead and copy my original text right away. And I'm going to make sure, I don't know why it's showing like this, but there we go. So let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. From the bottom, and from here to here I'm going to use 30 like so, and then I'm going to duplicate this one once again, position it here, and then make sure that this is 30 like so. And let me actually switch this one so I can take the text from this design as well, just so that we can speed things up just a little bit. So now that we have that, what I want to do is to create this background text right here, because you might remember from the intro video I showed you, there is this background text in the background, just giving some of the edge to this design, if you want to call it that, because it's going to make this packet stand out a little bit more. So if we take this, duplicate it, apply 180, make sure it's in the center like this, and then simply just leave it here for now. And actually I'm going to duplicate this one as well, apply this, make sure it's in the center, and because these are standing out a little bit, that's not really a problem, because we're going to fix it in just a second. So let's actually apply it here, and let's see about the positioning, how we are actually going to do this. So first of all, let's quickly nudge these. So let's see where we are, 98, let's go with 95. Something like that, I think it's going to work just fine. Yeah, and let's do the same for this one. So 95, it works well, and you can always place it behind if you want to, but I think it's good. What I want to do is make this all caps. So simply click right here and do the same for this one, click right here. And now that we have these, what I want to do is make sure that the text is in the center behind my packet, like this. And then I can go ahead and group these and move them. But one last thing which I want to include is this badge. And I want to show you, because I created these badges right here. Actually, you know what? We can maybe move this text even further up based on these badges. So for example, right around here where the original title of the coffee is. And these badges, as you can see, are made for each of these packets. And to use them in our animation, what I'm actually going to do is export them, because it's not really all that simple to work with them, because if I start to resize them, you can see they're losing their quality, and when I try to bring them back, you can see that the spacing is all wrong. So that's why I'm going to export them as PNGs in just a second. Finally, what we need right here is our button. And not to waste too much time, I'm going to simply copy and paste this button, right click right here and make local component. And let's see, perhaps I can position it 30 from here. And let's see, the distance can be 40 down, which is fine, like so. And Control C, Control V, I can position it right here. And let's see, 30 from here, 30 from here, which is fine. Basically, at this point, we have our design completed. I always like to do this because here at this stage you can really play around with all of your elements. You can really figure out everything you want, to where you need to position them, where you need to hide them, what you need to hide, what you need to put here, and all of those things. So now that the design is pretty much completed, we can go ahead and start planning our components. That's why I removed them from here just to show you how all of it looks like. So if we go back to here, what we need is some elements organization. Now remember, because our background is locked, you can easily just come right here and simply, yeah, I need to actually lock it again because I unlocked it previously. You can quite easily simply select all of these elements. Just make sure not to select the actual navigation. Hit Control G to put them in a group. And then once again with these elements, Control G and put them in a group. Now this is going to be Colombia, and this is going to be Arabica, like so. And what I'm going to do actually is push my navigation to the top, make sure that my Colombia is at the bottom because of this text, and Arabica is going to be right here. Now that that's completed, and because we don't need this, I can remove it, but I'm going to keep it just for you guys' sakes, just so that you can check it out and see what you want. Finally, before I start with any animation, what I want to do is export these. So you can hit Control E, you can choose whatever you want, and you can choose PNG, hit export, and there you go. Because I already export them, what I want to do is simply bring them right here. And as I said, Colombia is going to go to Colombia right here. Where is my folder? Here it is, Colombia right here. and simply align them like this. You can already see that this lost a bunch of quality, but it doesn't really matter because later when you send them to developers, they are going to integrate it much more easily as SVG. It's not going to lose quality. This is just for the design purposes because you need to show to your clients and developers what you had in mind for this animation. And finally, for this one, let me quickly find it. It's right here, because I'm going to do some quick animation here. Now what I'm going to do is organize these layers, so I can remove this badge, I can remove this badge, and let's see, because organization is really important because of the auto animate and animation feature in Hold. So I'm going to move the coffee to the top button. I'm going to move right here. This Arabica text I'm going to keep right here, and you're going to see why in just a second. I'm going to push this to here and I'm going to group it, call it text. Just for easier moving, button is going to be right there. Same thing for this. So let's see, badge, this can actually come right here to the top. So this badge is going to go right here. Colombia text is going to go right here. Coffee is going to go here. Button down here, and this is going to be called text. Now what I'm going to do is use masks because I need to hide this color. So to do that, you can simply hit Ctrl+D on both of these, make a duplicate, and call it, for example, Arabica mask. To use this text, Ctrl+C, Colombia, Ctrl+V for the mask. And now that we have our mask, what I want to do is simply place it above our text because I want to hide the text as well, like so. You can select this one, hold your Shift key, use Shift Control M or Shift Command M if you're on a Mac, and call this mask. And I can do the same for these ones, so Shift Control M, call this mask as well. And because we need to create the first state, which is going to be this beginning state, what I want to do at this point is quite simply play around with some elements. So the way you can plan this is, which are some crucial elements which you want to keep on your page, and which are some crucial elements which you want to show later in the hover or in a clicked state. So to get this planned, what you can do at this stage is simply make sure to understand which are some important elements which you actually need to show, like the coffee, like the order now button, and like the name of the coffee, because this shop has multiple coffees on offer, obviously. So you need to show these elements, and these additional elements can be shown on hover. So always think about those things up front. So now we can go here and we can start planning with these elements. So first of all, I want to hide this text, and I can actually leave it here because it's going to be covered by mask. So the mask, you can simply reduce it down to 1 pixel, and I can always jump right here like so, 1 pixel, and do the same with this mask. Because we have two, it's always the best idea to work on these changes at once. So make sure to find the middle, here it is, and just check right here if you are height of 1. When you are, and you click outside, you cannot see that text anymore. What we're going to do next is simply come right here to this badge, hold your Shift, Alt, and left click in one of the corners, and reduce it to somewhere around here. So it's somewhere around 40 with 34. Double click your 0 key to lower down the opacity to 0. So 40 with 34. So 40 with 34, double click your 0 key. And finally, what we're going to do with this text is I'm going to change this to this color, and I'm going to do the same for this text, and I'm going to keep this white. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this text, so this and this. I'm going to select them both and move them like so. So 1, 2, 3, 4, for example. We are somewhere around there. Or what you can even do is position this to here to be roughly, yeah, like this. So at the bottom edge of our button. And then we can actually move this text from our folder down. So let me find it here as well. Try to select them both. It works. And simply make sure it's out of your design roughly around here. It doesn't really matter. And now when you click outside, it's still going to be contained right here because it's in the folder. Now comes the fun part, because as I said, we have to create these components. We have to animate these things. So now that everything is hidden, everything is how we wanted it, we can simply hit Ctrl K on Arabica, and we can hit Ctrl K on Colombia. On Arabica, what I want to do is come right here and create a hover state, call it hover. Copy this text so I don't bother writing for Colombia as well. Hover for this one, Control V, and now inside of the hover state, let's play around with these elements. So for the mask, I want to quickly expand it. Make sure that it matches my background. So height is 888. It's the same right here. Come right here to the Colombia. Make sure we are on a hover. We are, and simply extend this to here as well. 888, which is great. And text is going to reveal itself, which is fantastic. What I'm going to do next is hit this text. So I'm going to make sure to position it 1, 2, 3, 4 like this, and make sure this to be 30 from here, like it was, and make sure it's white. Do the same for this text. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Select my Colombia. Make sure it's 30. Make sure it's white. And finally, we are left with badges. But how can you know which size you need to scale up your badge to? Well, it's quite simple. Simply drag and drop your original component, this one, and you can see the dimensions. So they are 182 with 156. So locate this one, make sure it's right here. So 182 with 156. Simply look at the sizes right here. So 182 with 156. And here we go. And make sure to do the same for this one. So show your badge. And then simply scale it to 182 with 156. Sometimes you're going to have to play around with these, but basically it works all of the time. And now that that's completed, what you can do is actually go ahead and close all of these because we don't need them to be open anymore. And now basically our design is done. Everything is completed. All we need to do is animate it. So to do that, I can go to the default state right here, go to the prototype, and now simply what I need to do, hover is already created. So if I hit preview right here, enlarge it. If I hover, you can see everything works as it should, and we can actually add additional hover effects for these buttons, but I don't want to do that at the moment. I think they are fine. What I actually need to do is I need to set the duration of this hover, because if I hover, you can see everything happens extremely quickly. It just bounce, but I don't like that. I just want to have that effect be a little bit smoother. So to do that, you can come to prototype, you can click on your hover. Instead of ease out, what I can do is select ease in out. So that way it's going to ease into the animation and ease out of it. For the duration, instead of 0.3, I'm going to select 0.4, for example, just a tad bit longer. And same thing for this one. So once again, we have the hover. I'm going to select ease in out, and I'm going to select 0.4. So now when I hit preview, you're not going to see that major difference. Let me hide myself, but you can still tell it works much more smoother. Everything is much more flawlessly shown, and I really like how all of it looks like. And of course, you can really play around with additional elements, like for example this button which I shared with you. So you can play around with them however you want, and you can really achieve different results to these different techniques and different durations. So that's basically it for this video. You can see how simple this is to create. Just remember to plan your hover effects, your animations up front. That way you're going to have the greatest possible result when you plan these animations up front. When you just stumble across them, you're not going to have that satisfying effect like we did in this case. Thank you for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to press that like button. I upload new videos every single week right here on the channel about Adobe Xd, design, passive income techniques, and more. So if you're interested, make sure to check it out. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. And until next time, take care.